Let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like you're just reacting to circumstances instead of being the one who directs them? You wake up with plans, and you end the day putting out fires. You promised yourself you'd save, and once again, somehow, you're just making it to the end of the month. And it's easy to blame the economy, your boss, or what some call bad luck, right? Believing that the fundamental problem is always outside of you. Now, and I speak from experience, after decades of studying success, I, Brian Tracy, discovered something both uncomfortable and liberating. That is the biggest mental trap of all. The invisible prison where most people live. Because there is an iron law that governs everything, your outer world is, and always will be, a mirror of your inner world. The chaos you experience on the outside is simply the echo of the disorder you have not yet organized on the inside. And understand this well, disorder always creates losses, but a system always creates results. That's why today we're not going to start with 10 tricks you'll forget tomorrow. No! Today we're going to start with the one principle from which all personal power is born. And it's called total responsibility. When you accept it, your position in the game changes completely. You go from being the victim to becoming the cause, from reaction to direction. And that's the good news. You are the cause. So stay with me, because I'm going to give you a simple, practical, and proven system step by step. First, we will acknowledge the pain. Then, we will install the principle. And finally, I will give you the practical order you can apply today. All right. Now let's get into the pain. And not to punish yourself, but to see clearly. Because without clarity, there is no order. I want you to observe your last week, calmly. Think about where that same cycle repeated itself. You promised to save, but suddenly, emergencies appeared. You spent on those little things that seem harmless, and you ended the day saying, "I'll start tomorrow." Sound familiar? That's not bad luck. That's your limitation mindset in action. It's a pattern that feels productive because you're always busy, but it leaves you in the exact same place. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water that has holes in the bottom. You work hard, you generate income, but the water level never rises. And you wonder why, right? So where do these holes form? First, it might be those phone notifications that shatter your focus. Second, perhaps those purchases that seem small, but you never budgeted for. And third, sometimes it's the urgent tasks of others that displace what's important to you, or even those conversations that simply drain your energy. I want you to see it for what it is. Tolerated disorder. That is the real villain. And as long as you tolerate it, it will continue to charge you interest in time, money, and confidence. And here comes a simple and tough principle. What you don't measure masters you. If an expense isn't written down, it grows in silence. If a task doesn't have an assigned time, someone else's urgency will fill it. And if your attention has no boundaries, anyone will decide for you. But don't fight your environment. Observe yourself. Because the good news is that this can be fixed, and it depends on small, repeatable decisions. Let's do a 2-minute microdiagnosis right now. Take that piece of paper and list 3 of those holes you had this week. For example, the unplanned morning coffee, that subscription you no longer use, or a small impulse buy. Next, beside each one, estimate its cost, either in time or money. And finally, mark the most frequent one with an asterisk. And now, to anchor yourself as the cause, repeat this mantra with me. Say it with a firm voice, not to blame yourself, but to take back control. I am responsible, period. Before moving on, lock this idea in your mind. Disorder creates losses. The system creates results. And what you've done today is the hardest step of all. You have dragged the disorder out of the shadows and into the light. Now that you can see it clearly, you can begin to master it. Perfect. Now we're going to install the engine of this whole system, the principle from which all power is born. And it's summed up in 2 words, total responsibility. And I want you to understand the difference. Do you think this is about blaming yourself? No. This is about taking control. Do you feel it's another burden? Not at all. It's freedom, because the moment you accept that you are the cause, you regain the power to design the effect. This idea stands on 3 pillars. The first and most obvious is to understand the internal cause. Your daily decisions, those small choices you make without thinking, are the sole source of your results. Once you accept that you are the cause, you need the second pillar, clarity. Because what you define, you direct. What you don't define directs you. And that brings us to the third pillar, the one that makes it all work, measurement. Because what you measure improves. What you ignore expands without control. All right, knowing this, let's shift our focus right now. If you used to say, I can't because of the economy, change it to, the economy doesn't control me. I control my money. If you used to say, I don't have time, change it to, I give my time to what's important. I want you to see it this way. Imagine your personal power is like a mighty river fed by 3 streams: your attention, your money, and your energy. Every time you blame others, it's like building a dam. The flow stops. You are left powerless. But the moment you take responsibility, you destroy the dam. The flow resumes with its full force. Your task from this day forward is to keep that river always flowing in your favor. Always remember, disorder charges you interest. The system pays you dividends. Dash. Perfect. You've taken control. Now let's demolish the second wall of your mental prison. The first was the lack of responsibility. The second is that silent voice that whispers in your ear, I can't. And I don't want this to be just theory. I want you to see it. I remember perfectly years ago in a workshop, a man approached me and said, almost in a whisper, Brian, it's just that. I can't save money. And in his eyes, I didn't see laziness. I saw a sentence, a belief carved in stone. We didn't try to change his life in an afternoon. We changed a single sentence. We transformed it from a statement into a question. How could you get $50 this week? Just to start. He made 2 calls, sold something he no longer used, and opened his first savings envelope. A small victory, yes, but that small victory changed his identity forever. He went from being a man who can't to being a man who finds a way. And this shift works for everything, especially your money. Instead of telling yourself, I can't save, you ask, how could I generate an extra $50 or $100 this month to start? Do you see the difference? One sentence is a period. It's a final judgment. The other is a starting point. It's a door that opens. So now it's your turn. I want you to do a small ritual of power. Take that piece of paper. Write with total honesty the I can't that has been weighing you down the most this week. Now, I want you to cross it out, not with anger, with decision. And to the right, write the question that changes everything. How could I? Your brain is a problem-solving machine. If you give it a statement of defeat, it shuts down. But if you give it a fascinating problem like how could I, it turns on, and it begins to search for solutions relentlessly. Dash. Very good. We've changed I can't to how could I. Now, let's fine-tune the last switch in your mindset. The one your mind defaults to. What if it goes wrong? And this has nothing to do with magical thinking, but with what I call the architecture of certainty. It's the same mental preparation Olympic athletes use before a final. They don't wait for success to happen. They build it first in their minds. I remember a student in a seminar, a man with incredible talent, but his voice trembled when he said, Brian, every time I pick up the phone, all I can see is the client's face saying no. He didn't have a sales problem. He had a focus problem. We didn't change his talent, we changed his mental rehearsal. He rehearsed for 30 seconds, seeing the yes as if it had already happened, and the confidence in his voice changed completely. The result? He closed a small sale that very day, not by luck, but by focus. And now, I want you to experience this power for yourself. If you can, and you're in a safe place, I invite you to close your eyes for just a moment. Bring that financial goal to your mind. See it as if it's already accomplished. Feel the relief in your chest, the smile that appears on its own. Take a deep breath and open your eyes. It felt different, didn't it? Now, let's ground that certainty. Write down one single action that will bring you closer to that result today. Send that proposal. Publish your service. Move $10 into your savings. Choose one and do it. Because a focused mind without action is just a dream that grows cold. But a focused mind, united with immediate action, is unstoppable progress. That feeling is the fuel. The action is the engine. Dash. All right, we've calibrated the mind. Now, it's time for the piece that turns that clarity into results. And this is the first decision. It's simple. One single rule for 7 days, non-negotiable. It's not a suggestion. It's your first order. What does that look like in practice? If your leak is impulse buying, your rule is wait 24 hours before buying anything non-essential. If notifications distract you, your rule is my phone stays silent and face down while I work. Or maybe your leak is that small ticket spending, that coffee, that bottle of water, that at the end of the month, if you add them all up, have eaten away a piece of your freedom. For that, the rule is, I write down every expense on the same day, no exceptions. Now, a secret. Willpower is a muscle that gets tired. so don't rely on it alone. Trust your system, and the first step of that system is to design an environment that makes you win. Remove the friction from the good and add friction to the bad. If the problem is shopping, turn off sale notifications. Delete your saved credit cards. Make it easier to comply than to fail. And if one day you fail, restart the next. Without guilt. We're not looking for perfection here, we're looking for consistency. Upholding a single rule for 7 days gives you your first measurable victory. And it reminds you of something very important. You are in charge. Dash. Very good. Your first rule is now in effect. But a rule is like planting a seed. It's not enough to plant it. You have to water it. And the secret is not heroic effort. It's the compound interest of discipline. To water that seed, you need a ritual. It's not a test. It's an honest conversation with yourself. Pick a day, sit down for 5 minutes, and ask yourself, where did I stumble? What was I feeling? What triggered it? With that clarity, you decide on a micro adjustment for the next week. Less friction, more protection. Now, a professional tool, the invincible minimum. On the day when everything gets complicated, you do only the 2-minute version of your rule. You don't break the chain. You make your minimum deposit. And what if you fail completely? You apply the day 8 rule. There is no punishment, there is a restart. Your identity is forged when, after falling, you choose to get back up. And now, the part your wallet likes. At the end of the week, calculate your dividends. Say it out loud. This week I recovered $20 because I plugged this leak. Your brain needs to see the reward to want to repeat the behavior. Keep your anchor close. I am responsible, period. Not to blame yourself, but to take back command. Dash. All right, you've proven you can stick to one rule. You've built the first wall of your inner fortress. Now, we're going to build the second. The question is, where do we lay the next brick? You ask yourself an honest question. Where does it hurt the most right now? The money leaks I still have, or the lack of new income. If your wallet is still bleeding, you choose protection. Your second rule will be to plug another leak. For example, I leave my credit card at home and only use cash for my daily expenses. But if your expenses are already under control, you choose production. Your second rule will be to activate income. For example, I send out one simple offer every day. Always remember, consistency before speed. Never 2 new rules at once. And to make this a part of you, we rely on rituals, small anchors that remind you of who you are now. Your 20-second power start in the morning. You breathe, you remember your rule, and you ask yourself, what is the first step the person I am building today takes? And at the end of the day, your 30-second clean close. You ask yourself, what did I actually do today? And you prepare the first step for tomorrow. If a week gets messy, you go back to a single rule. Every return makes you stronger. Because when you decide, the system responds. You set the pace, and the disorder obeys. Dash. All right, take a breath with me for a moment. Look at where you are now. You don't react the same way anymore. You chose total responsibility, you installed your first rule, and you discovered that the system works. That's called order. Now I want to reveal the final secret. The reason we've built all of this. People think that to make money they need to learn to invest, to negotiate, to sell. And they're right. But they skip step 0. They try to build a financial skyscraper on a swamp of disorder. And that's why it always collapses. This system of inner order is not self-help. It is the foundation of your financial base. The clarity, discipline, and control you are building here are the foundations upon which all real and lasting wealth is built. Without this, no money strategy works. So take these 3 truths with you. First, choose to be the cause every morning. It's not blame, it's control. Second, plug one hole at a time. Small victory, big confidence. Third, hold what you've gained and scale without rushing. Consistency before speed. When you create order on the inside, the results on the outside become an inevitable consequence. In the other videos on the channel, I show you the practical steps, how to increase income, close sales, and multiply opportunities. This video is the foundation. The others are the execution. To close, affirm your commitment, not to me, but to yourself. If you want us to continue building this empire together, subscribe and write system in the comments as your public declaration that you are ready for the next level. I'll see you in the next step.